Get ready to be jolted out of the ordinary and into a world where conversations are charged with intensity and facts. The Lightning Strike Talk Radio with your host, Mohammed, broadcasting live from the heart of the city on Chicago's Progressive Talk Radio, WCPT 820 AM. Welcome to a radio show that charges through the airwaves with an electricity like no other. Here's your host, Mohammed Fahim.
We are sitting over here today, this morning, folks. I wanted to talk about the 250th anniversary celebration going on in Washington, or being planned in Washington, that nobody wants to participate in. But then last night I had an epiphany. I wanted to change the topic today to something that has been top of mind for quite some time now, and we spoke about it last week also. Mike, you want to remind listeners what Congressman Ro Khanna said about this topic?
Yes, he was very upset that the Zionists are trying to backdoor the National Defense Authorization Act with, I believe it's Resolution 224.
Correct. Okay,
And
okay, so we are about 2 minutes or 1 minute away from going live on WCPT. So I'm monitoring what's happening on the station also.
Here we are.
So I'm monitoring what's happening on the station also.
Very interesting. Let's see, with
Okay.
Netanyahu's got a direct line to Congress.
Do you like my new version of the background? I put the phone number up there.
Huh.
Oh, I like that. Let me put my glasses on. Oh, yes. Say something, Chris, so he can blow up on the screen. Oh, look at
Good
that.
morning.
You
Okay.
are
So
amazing.
I think we're on. So let's get the show rolling. It's a little bit about 4 minutes past our usual time of rolling, folks. But good morning. You are tuned in to the Lightning Strike on WCPT 820 AM, Chicago's Progressive Talk Radio station. I am your host, Mohammed Fahim, and today I want to talk about something in my monologue as to why does a country of 9 million own the most powerful nation on earth? A country of 300 million. And in case you're wondering which country that is us, folks. And the country of 9 million? Well, all right, settle in. Because this one is going to make some people uncomfortable. But the truth doesn't owe anybody comfort. Here is the question. Why does Israel, a country smaller than New Jersey with 9 million people, have more influence over American foreign policy than virtually any other nation on earth? More than our NATO allies, more in many measurable ways than the American people themselves. That question used to be career-ending just to ask. Politicians wouldn't touch it, journalists wouldn't print it, broadcasters wouldn't say it out loud. Well, we are going to say it aloud, okay? And before you reach for the easy label, this is not anti-Semitism. This is political science, folks. This is documented, sourced, and real. And if you genuinely cannot tell the difference between criticizing the foreign policy of a government and hating a people, that confusion is exactly how this system has survived as long as it has. So let's break it down layer by layer, okay? This has 4 legs to it. And I promise you I'm not going to go too long because we got some great guests coming in today. Because this is not one thing, folks. This is a web, and you need to understand every strand of it. So strand one is obviously the lobby, right? AIPAC. We keep on hearing about AIPAC, AIPAC. Everyone wants to talk about AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. AIPAC is one of the most powerful political organizations in American history. But calling it a lobby undersells it. AIPAC is a full political infrastructure, folks. It vets candidates before they run. It coordinates fundraising across donor networks. It recruits and finances primary challengers against members of Congress who step out of line. And here is what that produces, okay? A chilling effect. Members of Congress who privately disagree with the relationship, and there are more of them than you think, stay quiet. Because they have watched what happens to the ones who speak. The punishment is fast, it is funded, and it is organized. That is not democracy. That's a protection racket dressed up in a 501c4. Strand 2, let's take a look at the money, okay? Pro-Israel donors are among the largest contributors to both political parties, both of them. This isn't partisan. The concentration of wealthy donors for whom unconditional support for Israel is a non-negotiable political baseline, concentrated in New York, Los Angeles, Miami, Chicago, shapes what candidates say and what they don't say, and what policies they push when they get to Washington. Now, money distorts American policy on a lot of issues, right? Healthcare, energy, finance. But on Israel, the ratio of donor influence to actual electoral footprint is off the charts. The number of Americans for whom this is their single driving issue is relatively small. The financial muscle behind those Americans is enormous. That imbalance is not an accident. It was built, okay? The 70 million Americans AIPAC never had to recruit. That is the third strand that I want to expose today. This is the piece most people miss, and it might be the most important one. Tens of millions of American evangelical Christians support Israel not because of any lobby, not because of campaign finance, because of theology. A major strand of evangelical Christianity holds that a Jewish state in the land of Israel is a prerequisite for the second coming of Christ. Supporting Israel is, for these believers, a religious obligation. That is a massive chunk of the Republican base, showing up election after election with unconditional support for Israel built right into their faith. No coordination needed, no maintenance required. It just runs. So when you combine that evangelical floor with the donor infrastructure on the other side, you have produced a bipartisan baseline of support that is almost mathematically impossible to get beneath. That is not a coincidence. That is the structural feature of American politics. And this has developed like in the last 70 years or so, okay? Let's look at the fourth strand over here. That is the defense industry. Here's one that doesn't get talked about enough. A significant portion of U.S. military aid to Israel flows directly back to American weapons manufacturers. The military-industrial complex. Heard that term? So Israel is required to spend a large share of that aid on American-made weapons. Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing, they profit enormously from this arrangement. So now you have a second, entirely separate lobby working the same congressional hallways as AIPAC, with no ideological commitment whatsoever, okay? They just have a bottom line. And their bottom line says, keep the money flowing, keep the wars going. The military-industrial complex, folks, has a vested financial interest in this relationship that has nothing to do with the Middle East and everything to do with shareholder returns. Keep that in mind the next time you see a defense contractor's name on a news segment about American foreign policy. Let's look at the fifth strand on this one. So there's a genuine strategic partnership and the leverage that it creates. Now, I want to be honest with you because that's what we do over here, okay? Israel provides real intelligence value to the United States. Information in Iran, on Hezbollah, on regional networks that American agencies find hard to penetrate on their own. Israel's cyber capabilities are world-class. Their Unit 8200 is legitimately one of the most sophisticated intelligence operations on the planet. That's real, and it creates a dependency. Pentagon officials, CIA analysts, State Department career officers, they've built professional identities around this partnership. Institutions protect what they have built. And that means that any administration that tries to restructure the relationship faces resistance, not just from outside the government, but from deep inside it. I got to cough, man. This frog in my throat is killing me, Mike.
You gotta do something with that frog.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. Okay.
The blue hair.
Sounds very bad when you cough on the radio, folks. I'm going to cut it off when we edit the show. So let's come back to this. So the strategic value becomes leverage, and that leverage gets used. And let's look at the sixth strand of it. So who controls the narrative? For decades now, the cultural framing of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in American media skewed heavily in one direction. They've all seen that. The language used to describe violence, the context provided or deliberately withheld, the voice is given airtime and the voice is shut out. This wasn't a secret meeting somewhere. It was the cumulative result of who owned what, who got hired, who got platformed, and which stories got told. You're seeing that recently, right? With Barry Weiss coming in and firing people right and left and gutting 60 Minutes. That monopoly, though, is cracking now. Independent media, podcasts, newsletters, shows like this one are reaching audiences that legacy outlets spent decades ignoring. The conversation happening right now would have been largely invisible to the American public 10 years ago. That's not nothing. That's actually everything. And let's look at the seventh strand in this, the weaponization of history. The Holocaust, folks, is one of the defining moral catastrophes of the modern world. The United States bears real responsibility for its delayed response, from turning away refugees for choices that prolong the horror. That moral weight is genuine. But that genuine moral weight has been weaponized. The accusation of anti-Semitism has been deployed so consistently against any criticism of Israeli government policy, okay, not people, that it has functioned as a political silencer for generations. And here's the thing. Many Jewish scholars, many Jewish activists, many Jewish Americans would tell you themselves that conflating the Israeli government with Jewish people broadly is its own form of anti-Semitism. It reduces an entire people to a state. It erases the millions of Jewish Americans who have serious, principled objections to Israeli policy. Criticism of a government, folks, is not hatred of a people. Holding that line clearly is not anti-Semitism. It is basic intellectual honesty. Strand 8, let's look at the Cold War Foundation, and I'm going to finish off in a couple of minutes with this, that the Cold War Foundation that no one dismantled. So the architecture of this relationship was built during the Cold War, when Israel was a strategic counterweight to Soviet-aligned Arab states. The aid packages, the weapons access, the intelligence protocols, all of it was institutionalized then. The Cold War ended, we all know, The strategic rationale shifted, but the architecture stayed. Because that's what bureaucratic systems do. They calcify. They become baseline assumptions. Career officials trained within them replace the ones who built them, and what began as Cold War strategy became, through inertia alone, permanent American policy. So, what is actually changing now? Something has moved since October 2023, imperfectly but measurably. A new generation of voters, young progressives, Arab Americans, Muslim Americans, has shifted towards Palestinian rights now. Members of Congress who broke the taboo, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Bernie Sanders, Ro Khanna, survived. The political cost of speaking honestly is going down. Polling now shows majority of Democrats and meaningful minorities of Republicans support conditioning military aid to Israel on compliance with American and international law. That was a fringe position 5 years ago. It is mainstream now. The Overton window moved, folks, and shows like the lightning strike, like what we do over here every Sunday, are one part of why. Here is what we actually should be doing about it, okay? Short term, medium term, and long term, and we'll finish off with that because 8:30 we have got our guest coming in for our District Watch segment. So, short term, enforce the law that already exists, folks. The Lehi Law prohibits military assistance to foreign forces that commit gross violations of human rights. The Arms Export Control Act requires that American weapons be used lawfully. These statutes apply to Israel. They have never simply been enforced with respect to Israel. Enforcing them, conditioning aid, is the most immediate lever that we have. That is exactly what organizations like New Policy are fighting for right now. Go check them out on the web. Medium term, build the counter infrastructure. AIPAC's power is an infrastructure problem. Infrastructure problems have infrastructure solutions. The organizations building on the other side, J Street, Jewish Voice for Peace, if not now, the Arab American Institute, New Policy, they need resources, sustained commitment, and political will. Primary challenges in the right districts, donor networks that reward courage instead of punishing it, and long term, a foreign policy that applies its stated values to every country equally. No blank checks, not for Israel, not for Saudi Arabia, not for anyone. Aid conditioned on compliance with international law universally. That is a generational project, folks. But it starts with the generation that is alive right now. It starts with you and I. So the bottom line is Israeli influence over United States is not mysterious. It is not some shadowy, inexplicable force. It is the documented output of 7 decades of deliberate institution building. A lobby, a donor network, a theological coalition, a defense industry interest, an intelligence dependency, a media framing advantage, and a moral framework that was weaponized to shut down debate. Every single one of them was built by human beings by making choices. Every single one of them can be countered by human beings making different choices. I want to finish off with something that we referred to last Sunday, Section 224 of the NDAA. This is an attempt to lock this relationship in at a legal level before the political will to change it fully arrives. A dedicated DoD executive agent, Israel explicitly elevated above any other ally on earth, military technology locked in regardless of what Congress decides. That is not a small adjustment, folks. That is a foundational rewrite of American defense policy. And it is being slipped into a budget bill. That is why your voice matters right now. That is why this show matters. That is why the work being done at New Policy matters. So the system was built. It can be dismantled. This is the lightning strike. I'm sorry I went way over my allotted time, but the topic
Yes, you did.
is so important, Mike. Folks, if you want to join the conversation, the number to call in is 773-763-9278. And this segment is sponsored by our good friend, Ray Hanania. So go to hanania.com. And the segment is What's on Your Mind? And before we go on with the rest of the show, I want to welcome Mike Patino and Chris Hilbert to the show. Sorry, guys, I had a lot
That's
to
all
get off
right.
my
It was
chest.
very well said. Very well said. I loved it. I really did. It's a lightning strike zap that everybody needs to hear.
Right, and most people think that, oh, it's only AIPAC. No, there's a whole. I mean, there's so many legs to this centipede. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, believe it or not, we even have some problems in DuPage County, right here in the state of Illinois.
Well, let's welcome our guest. Is going to be Lynn LaPlante, and this new segment that we are creating over here, folks, is sponsored by Arslan Consulting, our good friend Mike Patino, and we call it District Watch. And before we go on with Lynn, we got about 2 minutes to bring Lynn in. I want to talk about the other subjects that we will be discussing today. So get your paper and pen out and mark down any questions that you have. We're going to talk about the cost of living crisis, Trump's legal setbacks in executive power, America and the Middle East, of course, money in politics, independent media, and the future of journalism. With that, I give the mic over to Mike. Mike, it's all yours. I'm going to cough again.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Lightning Strike listeners. Yeah, I'm very, very pleased to bring back on our show Lynn LaPlante, and she is doing wonderful work in DuPage County and currently a county board member. I think this is your second term, right? And third term.
Third.
Yeah.
Ooh, congrats.
Okay, well, Lynn, why don't you just tell everybody just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll ask you a couple things, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Like Mike said, I'm on my third term on the DuPage County Board. Never thought I would run for office. By profession, I am a concert violinist and violist. Perfect segue from music into politics. No, but I was just so horrified, like everyone listening, to what happened in 2016. And I took our president's words in his farewell address very literally when he said, if you're upset, don't complain, get out there and run for office. So I did. And here I am. And wow, what an interesting world I have found myself in. Woo! Yeah.
Yes.
So, but I'm fascinated with public service. I always have been. I come from a family who believed in it very much. This is how I was raised. So to me, this is just something that each and every person, every American should think about doing at some level. I'm also fascinated by local government because, that's where the ecosystem begins, the political ecosystem. And I wish more people understood that. If you paid more attention to what's happening locally, because then that just keeps going up into the ecosystem and it brings us to the federal level. So there is a direct connection between local and federal politics, I believe. So, and I love talking about it. And I love just using my voice to point out the absolute absurdity of what is going on right now.
Yes, and what a beautiful voice you have. And let me tell you, I saw you first when you were running for office, and I met you there, and I've been following you very closely ever since because you represent what's needed most in local government and throughout the rest of the government. And it's just somebody who's going to stand up for the people, stand up for the basic needs of the people, somebody who is repulsed by corruption, which we'll get into in a little bit. But Yeah, I know you're a Democrat who spent the last 6 years plus holding
Mhm,
it holding a position there in the county board and holding the majority of the county board accountable.
mhm.
Do you have any regrets at all?
I do not. I have zero regrets. I did learn. I have learned a lot, and I think 2016 Lynn would be pretty darn shocked at what's happening by 2026. I thought we would have had things much better in hand by now. But specifically to the state of Illinois, politically, we're really a one party state, especially Northern Illinois, right? So I believe it is the Democrats' responsibility to speak up, to point things out, regardless of if there's an R or a D next to your name, especially when we have the majority. And what that means to me is paying much closer attention to primary elections, because in Illinois, the primary election is really where the change, if there's going to be any, is going to happen. The facts
Exactly.
are, I just don't think, we're not red anymore. Let's just be real. And I'm speaking specifically to DuPage County. It used to be completely red. It has changed, not because we as Democrats have done such a phenomenal job, but because the demographics have changed. So we have an entirely new constituent base. Now we're blue, but we are still in the what I say the toddler stages, because this is really new. We didn't get the Democratic majority until 2020. So it's, we don't have like long-standing or connective pieces through the political world or machine that helps train people here in DuPage. So it's a little rough. And I just think it's so important to hold everyone accountable. That's what my job is. That's why I ran. What else would I be here for? So if I see nonsense happening, I literally just can't help it. This is how I am built. My hand goes up and I'm like, excuse me, please.
Okay.
And does that win me a lot of friends in the room? No, it doesn't. Good thing is that's not why I ran for office.
Hey, Lynn,
So
one of the things that you said really resonated with me over here.
yes,
Politics starts locally, then it percolates up. And it's not just
Exactly.
politics,
Yep.
it's public service. It's our country, right?
yes,
And we have got a right to hold our elected representatives accountable for their actions. They
yes,
work for us. We pay their salaries, okay?
exactly. Exactly. That's exactly right. And to your point, Mohammed, what you were just saying, that you want to talk about the cost of living crisis.
Hmm.
Well, that brings me to something that just happened here in DuPage County. During a board meeting when we were going over the budget and talking about cost of living adjustment raises and just general raises, from the board floor, the Republicans on the board put forth a motion to just spontaneously give the chair of the board a 35%, the Democratic chair of the board, a 35% raise.
Whoa.
So it was not in the agenda. So no one was prepared. No one was there could be there for public comments. Media couldn't chime in. So I was the only Democrat that said, wait, hold on. We do not just give. I mean, in
The
this
only
economy,
one.
come on.
A
The stand-up.
35% raise in which there must have been some backdoor dealings in some cafes to bring this. It doesn't just happen by accident, Lynn.
It's very interesting, right? To have the
Yeah.
Republicans lead it. And so I voted no, of course. I mean, right? And
Right.
I'm the only Democrat who did. Then I wrote about it in a Substack. I use satire because, again, that's just my personality. Like, we just have to point out the absurdity of all of this. And woo, did that make people big mad? Oh,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
You
much.
threw a rock right into that hornet's nest there now.
I
Love
did.
it.
And again, this is how I was made. I cannot help it.
Okay.
I can't. So the next meeting, they spent an awful lot of time just, like a pinata, just taking turns. And I just sat there and took it because that's fine. Okay, I can handle it. And I wrote about it again.
Good for you.
Because, if you're going to give me these veiled threats in public by saying, how dare you talk about this? How dare you tell people what we just did? That does not make any sense.
Lynn,
No.
what I'd like to do is, especially folks over here on the Lightning Strike, we produce the show, okay? We don't take corporate advertising. We don't have any overlords like Barry Weiss telling us, you can talk about this and you cannot talk about this, okay? I would love to have those Republicans who suggested that come as a guest on our show and explain the rationale behind that as to what happened, man. Come on.
That is a fantastic idea, and I really think you should do that.
If you could please
I'll help you. I'll connect you.
Please
I'll
connect
work
Mike.
with- I'll
Please
work with
connect
Lynn.
Mike to them. And
Definitely.
see, this show is not just for Democrats, okay? We
Yeah,
want Republicans over here so we can get to hear their side of the story as to, hey, at the end of the day, we are Americans first.
Right.
We are not
That's exactly
Republicans.
right.
We are not Democrats. We are not Green Party, Blue Party, whatever. Let's look at America first, right?
Yes, I
So
agree.
yeah, I would love to bring them on. It's 8 minutes into the segment, Lynn, and I think we have thrown a couple of rocks at that nest. And if somebody comes back, and this is the beauty of what we do at the Lightning Strike, because we're not sponsored by anyone, they can tell us what to say and what not to say. As long as, see, WCPT is very famous for having facts. Facts matter. And as long as there are no conjectures and we are talking facts which are verifiable facts, you have the mic. Go ahead.
Yep, and I'm with you. I love facts. I'm obsessed, and that's what I did in my piece. Is I just put link, link, link. So this is what they said. Press here. So don't take my word for it. Modern technology. Everything is on record. Everything is recorded, and that's a red flag to pay attention to for all people who are in public service, especially, like I said, the Democrats here, who we have to police our own party, quite frankly. You got to pay attention to when they howl that loud. That's a red flag. And you got to think, okay, why are you so mad that this is now has left the boardroom and is now out in the shared reality? That's not a good sign. So that's what makes my spidey senses tingle. And I'm just going to have fun with it. I am, because I am here to serve. It's absurd, the things that I'm seeing. I have the privilege of having a seat in this room as an elected official. But quite frankly, I'm an outsider. I am not a politician. It's not how I was, trained or anything, right? So I'm using my outsider perspective to try and get people to pay attention and to understand what's happening literally in their own backyard. This last primary cycle, 76% of eligible voters didn't even bother to come out and vote.
Wow. Yeah, that's normal
People are
for-
sick and tired of this, Lynn. And
Yes.
that's
Yeah,
what
I
happened
am
in Will County over here.
Okay.
We have if we get 15 to 20% voter turnout, that's a big thing in the primaries. Okay.
Right. And you know what? We've got to stop celebrating that. I can't stand when people are like, hey, we got 24%. I'm like, no, I hear 76% didn't vote. So we've got to stop championing these tiny little baby steps. That's ridiculous. But I feel like if people understood that their vote actually matters, that if we can point to, if you don't vote, this is who's in charge. This is what they're doing with their tax dollars. This is how they are governing. If we can do that, then I think we could get a higher voter turnout. But the facts are, and this is a harsh truth that I'm going to say, elected officials don't really want you to know what they're doing.
Oh,
It's
Very
absolutely.
true.
Oh.
That is very true.
So,
Let's
folks,
just say
if
it.
you're listening, this is Lynn LaPlante. She is a DuPage County Board member. And the number to call in if you have any questions, suggestions for Lynn. And hey, if you're the other side who come up with this brouhaha listening, call in, man. Justify yourself. The number to call in is 773-763 WCPT or 9278. Very easy number to remember. And let's have a discussion, folks. Let's have a discussion. That's what independent media is so important, Lynn. What
Well,
we're trying to do
let's
over
let
here.
Chris get on, and
Yep,
she has
Chris.
the number right on her little. There it is.
Yep,
Okay.
there's the phone number. Lynn, I do have a question for you. I can tell, correct me if I'm wrong, that you really feel like compelled to be truthful, push the limits, shine the light, all those things that are really needed. Okay? And so I thank you because I feel compelled to be a pain in the rear to some people, both in my family and friends, as well as social media. So I would like to know, and I'm sure listeners would too, is have you run across any of your constituents who have thanked you for being that lone voice of shining, putting the spotlight on the cockroaches, as they say,
Yes.
because
Well,
I would think that if there are people out there doing that, that would make you feel good enough to continue, and you don't feel like you're a total lone wolf, that you're gathering a pack.
yes. Well, first of all, you are a very astute judge of character because that is exactly how I am. And I like that you use the word compelled, because that is what I keep saying. I'm like, listen, it's a compulsion. If I could shut my mouth, I would. But I can't. When you see injustice, when you see
Unfairness,
poor leadership, poor governance, whatever it is, when I see it, there's selfishness, there's a compulsion. And so that is true. And the answer is absolutely yes, that the people who are paying attention, who are interested in transparency and accountability and sort of piercing the political bubble, because that's its own little world, right? So there's some people who understand the importance of dragging popping that political bubble and dragging it into, as I keep saying, the shared reality. So those folks are very much appreciative.
Good.
My husband of it'll be 29 years next month, so he knows exactly who and what he's dealing with. He's very proud of me, and so that helps me a lot. I mean, sometimes he's like, maybe let that one go, and I'm like, I can't. But he's very proud of me because he's the most honest human being I've ever encountered. And so if he is telling me, good job, keep going, I know him and I'm doing the right thing. So he's
that's excellent. It's so wonderful to have somebody on your side that understands you.
Yes.
And be there for your support, because I can only imagine how tough it can be when the board is, everybody on the board is like against you and calling you out and saying, what the heck are you doing? We don't want the voters to know what we're doing. We want to keep them what is that phrase? Blind and stupid or something like that. I don't remember what that phrasing was, but
Hey, Lynn,
that seems to be the attitude of so many. So it's wonderful.
Lynn, let's name names. Who are the members of the DuPage County Board, the Democratic members? And
who are they?
Who's the current chair? Yeah.
Okay. The current chair is Deb Conroy, and then there's 18 board members, 12 Democrats and 6 Republicans. That's the current makeup of the board. So we have the majority, no problem. So that's kind of what my thought was. Oh, brilliant! Have the request or the motion for a big raise to come from the Republicans. So then that cuts off any criticism from the right on these raises, right? Because you have the Republicans do it on a Democratic majority board. However, the Republican Party of DuPage County did not let facts get in the way. And they reported it as, look what happens when the Democrats are in charge. They just spend your money, they give raises, when it was the Republicans who put this forth. But
that might have been the strategy behind it.
Let them up.
Oh, totally. The strategy.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm going to guess it was, but I don't know. I certainly am not privy to any of this
Well, no,
information.
I mean,
Yeah.
common sense tells us that that was a strategy, and these guys just threw that smoke bomb into the Democrats' corner, and the Democrats lapped it up, except for you, who said, "Hey, hang on a second, there's smoke
Yeah.
coming out of this cartridge over here." Okay.
Right. And then when they came after me, really, I mean, whoa, I wrote, the next piece was the Barbara Streisand effect. Do you guys know what the Streisand effect is?
Yeah.
Okay. For those who don't know, it's in the pursuit of keeping something quiet, you actually amplify it. So that's what I said. I'm like, okay, you just spent whatever, 15 minutes of public time, going after me for what I said. Now people are really listening. And that's when the Chicago Tribune covered it. And then the Daily Herald woke up. And people were like, wait a minute, why the heck in this economy, while we cannot keep enough food in our food pantries, what are we doing?
Yep.
Giving an outrageous raise like this. So this is just one tiny little pebble, but it's one that is very easy to understand, which I think makes it a great sort of vehicle to get people to pay attention to what's happening at the local levels. And to understand, you've got to hold the people at the local level as accountable as you do at the state level and federal level, because guess where they're going? That's where they're going.
Yep.
That's how it feeds itself. It's
Yep.
a self-feeding ecosystem. So pay attention to what and who you are feeding.
Right.
And we're
One
not
of
doing a
the,
good job of that.
Yeah, one
No.
of the things that I like to remind people, Lynn, is everything starts at the local level. When you get your tax bill, take a look at it. Okay, how many local bodies are taxing you? It is not the federal government taxing you so much as your park district, your water district, your library district, your this district, fire. All of these things are local, and local people run for those positions and they make policy. So when you say that, oh, it's politics, I don't want to be a part of it. No, it's your everyday freaking life, folks.
It really
Everything
is.
that we are doing over here, the roads that you drive on, the water that you drink, everything is impacted by local people like you and I.
That's right.
Please,
That's
please
right.
pay attention. Please pay attention. Participate, and learn about candidates. That's why we have this District Watch segment that we started, Lynn. Is
I love
just
it.
for this, because people like you who are at the grassroots level in a district know what is happening. We don't. The national media doesn't.
The
Nor do
local
they care.
media doesn't even. And that's
Yeah.
the thing. So speaking just for DuPage County, we're an extremely well-resourced county. So we have an annual operating budget of about $675 million. And no one's paying attention because we're not Cook County. When you're, we're the second city of the second city, right? So those collar counties, they don't have journalists watching. They don't have public watchdogs. They don't have anything. And so a lot can be done. Corruption can creep in. That's not monopoly money. That's real taxpayer dollars.
Right.
And with no one watching, we basically don't have a fourth estate, let's be real, in general. And it's certainly, even the change from when I got on the board in 2020, in my first term, we would have reporters in the room, local reporters, at least, keeping up with things. We don't even have that anymore.
Not anymore.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
the Daily Herald, for example, used to cover these local meetings.
Yes.
I remember 40 years back when I came in with my degree in communications and journalism, I went to work for the Daily Herald for a while. And my
That's awesome.
first job was covering local municipal, meetings.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
My
not
first
anymore.
job was also with the Daily Herald, but
Really?
I was a paper carrier. Yes.
Okay. No,
Hey,
so I had
my
to attend the
first
meetings, but I don't
Right?
see them. I don't see any reporters, local reporters, in any of the meetings.
No. And that gives me great pause. So I'm kind of using my own voice. I love to write. I love it. To me, it's music, right? It's just words instead of notes. And this topic is endlessly fascinating to me. And we don't have anyone who's doing that anymore. We don't have a Mike. No one replaced Mike Royko. I mean, he's irreplaceable, but there's not even a close second. Molly Ivins, remember her?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Love Molly.
Me too. So why the heck not? I'll talk about it. I'll write it. I will say it because someone needs to. And right now, this is just completely the collars. That's why I love this new segment, because no one's paying attention. There is no one guarding. The foxes are guarding the hen house.
Well,
Right.
no,
Where can people read what you're writing?
On Substack, and
On
it's just
Substack.
at Lynn LaPlante. Is that there's no name of it or anything. So if you just look up Lynn LaPlante on Substack, then you could read it. And I'm going, yeah, they cannot stop me from giving my perspective of what happens in that room.
Correct.
Just can't. You just can't do that.
All the more power to you, Lynn, and thank you for becoming a subscriber of the Lightning Strike.
Of course.
So, okay.
Of
we want
course,
to
you have to
Thank
support your local journalism because that's what you guys are. And so everyone has to support it. I subscribe, I have a membership or subscription to the Herald, to the Tribune, everything online, because if I want them covering what we're doing, I have to put my money where my mouth is. And I encourage all of the listeners right now, if you're listening, you should be subscribing.
Yep, tlsradio.com is the website, folks. And speaking of subscribing, we are doing our first fundraising dinner on July 29th. And you'll be getting more information about it shortly. And Lynn, we wanted to have the fundraising dinner and not just have speeches. We wanted to have some interludes in between of some talent. And I just heard someone saying that they are what was that, violinist?
Yes, I think that was Mike Patino who said it. He's the violinist, right?
So would you be open to coming for the dinner? Of course you have to come. But giving us a little taste of your talent. We got the Rockaholics performing. I've got a comedian who wants to do a gig. Ray Hanania is going to our MC. He is a stand-up comedian also, along with being a former City Hall reporter for the Sun-Times. So can we impose on you to come in for like a short 5 minutes gig?
Sure, absolutely. If I'm in town, I'll do it. Yes.
Okay,
I try to bring my music into my role as well. And I love when people say, well, she's just a violinist. And I'm like, hold my Troy.
Yeah, but like a violinist or any artist is not allowed to have an opinion about what is affecting them on a daily basis, right?
As if artists haven't been leading the charge in terms of social change and politics since the dawn of civilization.
Right.
But
It's always been the artists.
Yep.
Right, but please go on. But I bring so
Lynn, look at your calendar, please. July 29th, Wednesday
29th.
in the evening. Mike will send you more information.
Wonderful.
6:30 to 9:30 in Bolingbrook.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay, and Mayor Mary Basta has been very kind to get this thing arranged at the Bolingbrook Community Center for us. Okay.
Wonderful. Okay, sounds like a date.
Mayor Basta. It's 8:55, folks. We got Lynn LaPlante, our first candidate over here, our first correspondent on the District Watch segment. If you would like to be a correspondent, report to us what's happening in your district, please send an email to tls820am for the Lightning Strike 820am @gmail.com, or you can reach Chris Hilbert. Chris is the segment producer along with Mike, who's coordinating this. C. Hilbert, HILBERT @tlsradio.com. Very easy. You can reach us. Become involved, folks. This is our country. Let's take it back. I started off this morning, Lynn, with a rant on why is a country of 9 million controlling a country of 300 million. And it was more to do with not just AIPAC and others, but this entire system, this ecosystem that has been built up with the military industrial complex and the bureaucrats over there. Everybody is feeding off the system. Why do we have a war somewhere or the other in the world every single day? It's not just the Middle East, right? Now we want to go to Cuba. Why? Because the military industrial complex is working the members of Congress as a lobbying group. Okay, the Raytheons, the Boeings, and all of those people. Folks, it's our country. Let's take it back. We can't just sit back and allow this to happen. And all of this has been happening in the last 70 years. This has really picked up, speed. These are man-made institutions, and we can dismantle it by having people like Lynn and also other people that want to speak up. So, yeah, Lynn, thank you so much. We got 3 minutes to go. Let's
Yes, thank you so
wind
much.
up with giving the final words to Mike, because Mike is giving me that look as, hey, why are you? Okay. Okay, Mike, go ahead.
Well, yeah, thank you so much, Lynn. I really enjoy listening to you, and uh, I hope most people get compelled, just like you, compelled to support you, compelled to, read
Get involved.
your Substack, read what you're all about, and then themselves get involved, get up in the morning and want to do something to make some changes, whether it's run for a county board seat or just get involved in somebody's campaign.
That's right.
But we need more servant leaders like yourself. You
We
know,
really do.
Definitely.
and that is how we take the country back with
I agree.
with people like you that are compelled to do the next right thing for the people. It's pretty simple.
Imagine that.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it is so simple, okay?
Yes.
It is so simple, and let us keep it simple. It's not complicated, folks. You don't need to have a law degree to be a lawmaker.
That's right.
Let me specify that again. You can be a concert pianist and a violinist and be a lawmaker. Okay? So put on your hat and show up. Show up to the polls, and then hold the elected representatives that you have elected accountable for their actions. And if they are not performing the servant duties that you expect of them, let them go. Performance review time comes every 2 years for our people of Congress also, right? Chris likes to call them Congress critters, not congressmen or congresswomen. Okay, I like the term. And so we have the locals also. Every 4 years, every 6 years, every 2 years, get involved, folks. It's coming up at 9 o'clock. We'll be taking a station break at 9 a.m. for the NBC News at the top of the hour. And the conversation here on Facebook continues, okay? So we have this unique thing, Lynn, where we started doing the show last September on Zoom, and the audio is going directly to the station transmitters. And it is getting pumped out on 8:20 a.m. locally in the Midwest market, worldwide on heartlandsignal.com and the WCPT website, and on the WCPT Facebook page, on my Facebook page, and then on SoundCloud, and we post this on YouTube. And I mean, the message is being amplified many times over once the show is over. So it's not just, the 15-20 minutes that we are speaking about things on the air over here with our guests. Your message is going to be amplified. At least I would say, 5 or 6 times over in different media. And that's what we need to hear. At the 9 o'clock hour, folks, we will have Congresswoman Marie Newman joining us with her segment. And then we have 9:30, we have Maria Muzaffar joining us with her segment on Breaking the Echo Chamber. And Dr. Sheila White is not joining us today. She has an event that she's covering in Joliet. She has a veterans event that she's covering. So she will be back next week with her Person of the Week. We have a Person of the Week segment, Lynn, that we have been doing for 3 years now.
Cool.
Yeah, we like to highlight somebody who have done things and they are not getting the proper recognition for that. Not that they're looking for recognition, we want to recognize them.
It's great.
And Dr. White has been producing that segment from day one on the radio with us. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to do this. And so thank you, Dr. Sheila White, for consistently producing the segment. And now with our new format, we can have a guest from anywhere in the world. We even had doctors and nurses from the front lines in Gaza joining us on the radio over here.
Wow.
Yeah, that is the power of independent journalism.
Yep.
And that's what we need right now.
Yep,
That's
more
what we need.
independence,
Mhm.
more independent media of all sorts. I
Mhm.
like The Lever with David Sirota. He's
Yes.
doing the investigative journalism
Mhm.
that we used to have in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Mhm.
And I just love that.
I do too.
Yeah.
And what I like to say I have 4 kids, so whenever any of their friends are talking about college and what should they major in, and I'm like, journalism. If you don't know the journalism, we need journalists.
Yes,
We've
we
lost
do.
that. We've lost that, and we need this next generation to come out and speak boldly. That's what we need. We need that.
Yes.
Don't major in business, go major in journalism. So I'm trying, I'm pushing the next generation to be
You're on top of a lot of things.
Yeah.
Congratulations
Okay.
on that.
No, and I'm so glad you mentioned it. Okay, journalism and plumbing and HVAC and car mechanics. That's what we need, folks. We don't need people with useless 4-year college degrees, and that's been one of my pet peeves. You get a 4-year college degree, and then you come out and you're working at McDonald's in the drive-through window. Why?
And unions, don't forget, unions are wonderful places to go.
Oh,
as an
absolutely.
alternative, right?
You go become a journeyman in the
Yes.
in
Thank you.
one of the unions.
Yep.
You know how much money you can make, folks, without a 4-year college degrees? Okay, and you can't have AI come in and replace an electrician who comes in to wire your home.
That's right.
Well, not
And
only
you're
that-
protected. Your job is protected. You're protected. I'm a union member, the Chicago Musicians Union, and I'm a huge champion for organized labor. And same thing. I also take some of their friends and set them up with different unions because college is not for everyone.
No.
Or a 4-year degree is not for everyone. There are other alternatives, and you're exactly right. With AI looming, it's time to really sort of go back to the drawing board a little bit.
Well, I have done a number of seminars, especially in Schaumburg Library in that part of town, on what can you do with just a high school diploma with no college degrees if you go in and get trained as a CNC operator or a programmer, for example, okay? In 10 years, literally, folks, without a $200,000 debt on you, you'll be making $100,000 per year plus. That is what you can be doing with just a high school diploma, okay? So like you're saying, Lynn, college is not for everyone. This entire education industry is a big racket, folks. I'm sorry, okay? I've got 3 college degrees, 2 bachelor's and a master's, and a diploma on top of that, okay? But those were different times. We were trained to actually practice the craft that we went to school for. Now you come out with a 4-year college degree, it's no use, Look at the number of people that are jobless with college degrees. Okay, I think we were kind of veering off topic a little bit over here with that. Okay, 5 minutes past 9 o'clock. I think we are off the station break, folks. You are tuned in to The Lightning Strike. I'm your host, Mohammed Fahim, with my co-hosts, Mike Patino and Chris Hilbert. We are tightening up our team also. So if you want to participate as a listener, as a team member, help us get this message out. Okay, go to radio.com, for the Lightning Strike Radio. You can become a subscriber for as little as $10 a month. So we want to keep this show going without corporate advertising. Yeah, we may take some local advertisers if they are, genuinely interested in supporting independent media, but none of those corporations who will come in and tell you what to say, what not to say, and then pull the rug from under you if you don't listen to them. Lynn, thank you so much for joining us again. Lynn LaPlante at Substack.com. Go check her out, and do support Lynn. And Lynn, all the more power to you. All the more power to you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. It was wonderful talking with you this morning, and I'll be back to keep reporting. Yes.
Yeah, we loved having you. You were so gracious and kind and full of information and encouragement for everybody to get out there and become involved. So thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, you're setting a good standard for the district watch.
Yes.
Great. Let's go. Let's do it.
I think Mohammed usually invites you to stick around as long as you want. If you want to listen to Marie a little bit or whatever, you don't have to leave us.
Okay, well, I definitely want to say hi to Marie.
Okay, Marie should be joining us in about a couple of minutes. She usually comes in about 9:07, 9:08. And please stick around. And Mike, who's going to be our next guest? We're going to do the District Watch on the first Sunday and the third Sunday of the week, of the month.
That is correct. Chris, we have Morgan Coghill scheduled, right?
Yes, correct. He's scheduled for the June 21st.
Okay, and on June 14th...
Morgan Coghill comes out of Lake County. He's with a bunch of radical fighters up there trying to stop a lot of the data center movement up there in Grays Lake. A big shout out to those guys. They're doing a lot of work. They're going after the city council. They're talking about recalls. They're on fire out there. And Morgan is helping them out.
Yeah, next week, Mike, we have got Rachel Ventura signed up to come on and talk about what the heck is happening at the state capitol over there. Okay.
Oh, excellent. Very nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
A lot of people don't like Rachel because she says it like it is, like Lynn is saying. I mean, Rachel has always said this: the people elect me, the party doesn't. Okay.
That's right.
So a lot of people in the Democratic Party don't like Rachel because she's a straight shooter. She comes out and says things as it is, and she says you can ask any questions that you want, no holds barred. So look forward to next Sunday on the Lightning Strike, folks. And it is going to be about 9 minutes past the hour. I wonder what is happening with Marie, because I know that Marie is going to be traveling also next week.
Really?
Yep. She is actually going to Italy.
Right.
Oh.
Okay, so next Sunday, Marie is not going to be on the radio with us. It's going to be Ray Hanania stepping in for that segment with Rachel Ventura, and of course we will have our regular team over here. And folks, again, if you want to be a part of what we are doing over here, please go to tlsradio.com and just support us, okay? And you can always send us an email at tls820am@gmail.com with your ideas, with your thoughts, with your suggestions. And if you're doing something right, let us know. If you're doing something wrong, tell us. Because unless we hear from you, we don't know, right? So it's not a one-way conversation.
Everything.
It's always going to be a two-way conversation. And I am still waiting for Marie to join us over here. So, Mike, you want to continue the conversation with Lynn? We got a couple more minutes.
Oh, I'm so glad to have her.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, what else you got going on over there in DuPage? What's the next hurdle?
Let's see. The next hurdle. There's just right now everyone is in campaign mode, so that's going to be rough. There's a lot of seats that are up, a lot of you can sort of cut the tension with a knife now, because people are nervous about their elections, their upcoming elections. Which brings me to another topic that we should definitely hit on another segment, which is the fact that most elected officials, their number one focus, number one, far and away, I don't even know what number two is getting reelected.
There you
How
go.
that drives the entire bus. Good morning, Marie.
Good morning, everyone.
There she
I
is.
to just say hi to you. I can
There you
pass
go.
the baton.
That's okay. Enjoy.
Well,
Good
thank
morning,
you.
Marie. And Lynn was waiting to say hi to you. And
Yeah.
we had a wonderful, wonderful discussion. So, folks, Lynn LaPlante at Substack, go check her out and read what the Tribune and the other newspapers have been saying recently about Lynn also. Thank you so much for joining us, Lynn.
Okay. Have a great day, everyone.
You
Have
too.
fun.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thanks,
Bye.
man. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, so Marie, good morning. Welcome, welcome back. So very intense discussion with Lynn as to what is happening in DuPage County, and it was the launch of our District Watch segment from this month on. Thank you to Chris, and thank you to Mike for making this thing happen. Next guest in the third Sunday of June is going to be Morgan Coghill, and who ran for Congress in District 10. Marie, go ahead.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Ignore at Your Risk, and happy summer, gorgeous day here in Chicago. It's funny. I don't usually get engaged with sports, but I have to tell you, the shenanigans around the Bears, I will call it dilemma, Sophie's choice. What do we want to call it? Are getting ignored, some of the pieces, and I just have to speak up. So let me start by saying if in fact this is the God's honest truth and the Bears are leaving and the board of directors vote by the Bears organization has said, yes, we're going to Hammond. And if that keeps going down that path, it'll be very, very sad for the fans, very, very sad for small businesses that work with the McCaskies and the Bears. It will be very sad for Chicago and Illinois and the Midwest. So let's be clear, and I want to be sympathetic to that. The groups I'm not sympathetic to at all are the McCaskies and the Ryans. Those are the majority owners in the Bears organization. It's a privately held organization. And every kind of economics and commerce or only business sided person has said, oh, well, they have shareholders. They have like 9. Like, come on, it's not a publicly traded company, so shut up. I'm just being clear with everyone. This is the McCaskies have been bullying Illinois for 75 years. It is beyond the pale what they have done. So and believe me, I am the first to acknowledge that perhaps the governor and the state legislature were not perfect. But they did try multiple times, and the McCaskies kept saying what? We know what they said. Not enough. You aren't giving us enough kickbacks. You aren't giving us enough money. We are special. We are the only ones. And because they're billionaires. And I've really had it with people like this, is that when the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois has been nothing but loving and made you billions and billions of dollars, quite literally, and you turn around and slap all of those people across the face because you're not quite making enough billions. Like, come on. And this is sad for a very particular reason. I don't want anyone to ignore this, is that sports bring everybody together from the far right to the far left and everything in between. And that's why I love sports as a kind of a convening point. We can forget about all of our troubles and our opinions and our attitudes and all come together and enjoy our teams, right? And so it is just a real shame. But I want to be clear who's at fault here. There may have been not enough creativity and innovation on the state and municipal side, but there was utter greed and selfishness by the McCaskies and the Ryans. And I just want everyone to understand what's really going on here is that they kept asking for more and more. And that bill didn't go through because nobody in the state of Illinois, whether you are a Republican, an independent, or a Democrat, wants to pay more taxes. And that bill would have asked everybody to pay more taxes. So when you're pointing fingers, make sure that you point at the McCaskies and the Ryans on this. I wish them well. I don't wish them any ill will, but if you need to go to Hammond, rock on, have fun, because no one is going to go to Hammond to see the Bears. I got to tell you, babes. And so, so have fun with that. And oh, and then the city of Arlington Heights to lead them on. They were like the worst boyfriend on the planet, right? Lead them on for 2 years and then
Really?
dump them unceremoniously. So ridiculous. So let's move on though. So that's the Bears. And I won't comment on sports again probably for another year. But so let's talk about. I wrote a Substack this week, folks, about how we got to where we are. And there were 15 clear events in time over the last 50 years that the far right worked very strategically to get there. It was sort of astonishing. But I'll just highlight a few of them. And because very few people know, and you ignore this at your risk for sure, the Powell memo. Who is Lewis Powell and what was his memo? So Lewis Powell was a conservative attorney in Republican politics around in the early 70s. And he wrote this confidential memo that was very intricate and detailed about the U.S., how the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and other business organizations could come together and really urge businesses to aggressively, and I do mean aggressively, use their wealth and organization to counter perceived liberal threats, meaning make it sound like everything liberal, and when you want to work or volunteer or help your neighbor, that's bad, quite literally. And what it would do is it would empower our wealthiest citizens, this whole strategy. And so that Powell memo became this convening point, all the way to the point where that same lawyer, Lewis Powell, made his way all the way to SCOTUS. He was ultimately, because of his quote unquote brilliance around this Powell memo, he was appointed to be a U.S. Supreme Court justice. So put that over on the side for a minute, because that was hovering over all of our judicial decisions for a decade that later found its way to a very horrid decision called United or Citizens United. So what else was going on in the 70s? Well, the Heritage Foundation and ALEC both were created. So ALEC, A-L-E-C, is the American Legislative Exchange Council. ALEC and the Heritage Foundation decided it was their job, because they were somehow superior to everybody else, to create the way the government should be run. And they would talk about it in those terms, to be clear. And they're both based in DC, and said, this is the way, not this is a way, or we should all talk about this. It is the way, which is just a conservative leading type of model development for bills. So they started creating this kind of blueprint for how conservative bills would be built. Then the Heritage Foundation got in the business of telling government who they should appoint to be part of the judicial system and be judges, which is beyond the pale, but we are where we are. Then if we skip forward, we go through Reaganomics, which was painful, and everybody learned, oh gosh, trickle down does not work. And it still doesn't work. In fact, it never worked. But the FCC during that time, right after Reagan was in office in 87, decided that they would repeal the Fairness Doctrine. So the Fairness Doctrine was the media and communications prevailing policy that was created right after World War II. It was 49, I believe, where it was required by all broadcasters, whether you were radio or TV, that's all we had at that point, and you had to air controversial public issues with both sides prevailing, meaning that you in fact would have to present contrasting viewpoints to be fair. But in 1987, they repealed the FCC, independent body of our federal government, decided to repeal that. So what did that give rise to? It gave rise to Fox News and other one-sided leaning organizations. So then, if we fast forward to the 90s, the booming 90s, Newt Gingrich is our fourth big event. He presented the Gingrich Revolution. Remember Contract with America, where it said, pull up your bootstraps all day long, folks. Don't worry about anybody else. Doesn't matter if you don't have bootstraps or if you don't have boots to put on your straps. So that was very powerful, because people started to think, well, I'm sick of helping my neighbor, and I'm sick of all of us having a little bit of the pie. I want my own piece of pie. And the pie is no longer infinite. The pie is finite. And I want my piece of pie, and I'm willing to fight you for it. So that's effectively what the Gingrich Revolution was. Then historic event, the 2000 election, right? Al Gore and Bush ran, and it was so close that they had to go through a recount. And so the Florida recount was treacherous and filled with all kinds of bad things. By the way, Pam Bondi was part of that mix, just so you know, as a young lawyer. So that tells you everything you need to know. But interestingly, it then got kicked to the Supreme Court, where Al Gore ultimately, we were 2 or 3 months in, and he didn't want to hold the country hostage, and he gave in and said, "Okay, let's go." And Supreme Court ruled in Bush's favor, and there we went from there. So that, what I call election interference, to me, still inappropriate and was wrong, but definitely an event along the way that got us to this kind of fascist area we're in right now. So next big deal was Citizens United. We've talked about it on our program a million times. All of us have groused about it. But as a reminder, it is the ruling in 2010 where they decided corporations were equal to people in terms of free speech, and allowed for dark money, super PACs, corporate PACs, and independent expenditure, which is the bane of our existence now. So then, if we flash forward a little bit sooner to where we are now, 2013, U.S. Supreme Court struck down the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So basically decimated it, which launched gerrymandering. And gerrymandering became the worse than ever. And now it's in a ridiculous state of affairs. And along the way, other things were happening, not just gerrymandering, but the constitutional hardball that McConnell used against Obama on judicial nominations, holding them ransom, and all of that nonsense was going on in the background. And then also something in the background that both Democrats and Republicans got very handy with was executive power, that there were more executive orders between 2000 and now to 2026 than there were in the whole of all of the other presidents combined. So just know that, like, both sides leverage that. And I do think we have to curtail that a bit in the next Congress. And then social media came along. We had the attention economy, and they started interfering in our daily lives and amplifying all of the wrong things and scaring people, quite frankly. And then 2020 came along, right? We had a pandemic, and we had the first time ever a huge insurrection against trying to stop our election certification. I was there. I remember it distinctly. And that's where the big lie started propagating, right? So now that big lie has propagated itself so powerfully that the president of the United States, meaning Trump, just said this week that, California is definitely committing fraud. And they're not. It's a big state. It's 40 million people. It takes a while. And they have mail-in vote. And then there was the January 6th Capitol attack. Dobbs' decision in 22 basically said that all abortion-related rulings and decisions should go to the states, and effectively, and people will fight me on this, but effectively allowed for an abortion ruling that would outlaw abortion federally, which would be incredibly wrong. That's their next step, and they are working on it, folks. So don't stop working on women's rights and the choice movement. And then finally, the dirtiest, most disgusting document of all, Project 2025. That was the conservative policy blueprint that and I'm just going to call it out. I'll call our party out. The Democrats ignored it. They're like, "Oh, that's goofy." No, it's not. They have executed, by the way, in the latest measure, about 75% of it has been educated or executed, folks. So it wasn't goofy, and we should have been on it. And by the way, we had a year to plan for it, and we did not. So shame on all of us. And that expanded executive power. It restricted reproductive rights and illegal crackdowns on immigration, dismantling agencies in whole cloth, USAID, and then all of this nonsense and horrifying repealing of DEI everywhere and scaring people. So it was death by 1,000 cuts. Those big 15 steps that got us to where we are right now were powerful. And when we have people push back at us and say you're overreacting, well, no, we're not. And I needed to chronicle and document this for everybody so they understand each of those each of those items, if we had fought a little harder, maybe we would have a different result today. But in its aggregate, it is death by 1,000 cuts, folks. It's never one big catastrophic event. Same thing happened in with Orban. So just know that fighting every small fight is important in the big fights. But here's the good news. I always like to land on it, is that we have been fighting back, and we've made a lot of progress, and we are going to win this election in 2026. But it does depend on two things. Register folks to vote that currently are not registered, and make sure they get out there and vote, and then get your hiney out there, folks, and vote. So thanks for a great Ignore at Your Risk, and I'm going to hand it back to Mohammed.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you. It's always educational listening to you. So, folks, that's the important thing, okay? But we spoke about Project 2025 for the entire year before the elections, Marie. And, I remember, we used to have these discussions in the studios over there with even, Ken used to pull his little, iPad out and give us what is happening. And, we thought that no one is going to remember or fight back. Our party was asleep at the wheel.
Oh, we should have had a fully executed reverse engineering plan. So if I put my dorky management consulting hat on, you understand the situation as it is, and then you have to have a point-by-point plan that addresses each of the evils in said plan, right? And they did nothing.
No,
and they
nothing.
didn't have a written plan at all. So for me, this leadership of this party is it is not just wildly wrong. It is irresponsible and to the negative. Like, look where we are because you couldn't manage to get a plan together.
Yep.
Now, part of ego and all the things. Sorry, Chris.
Mike has a question for you.
I'll give some of my time to Chris Hilbert.
Thank you, Mike.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that the Democrats have been irresponsible since the mid-90s. And I know this because I read an article that detailed what the Republicans had been doing for the previous 25 years, and the Democrats were ignoring all these things. And this author, I don't remember who it was, laid out all the steps and said the Democrats better get their butts back into local elections, and they need to stand up to Republicans, and they need to stop caving in and saying, oh, nobody's going to believe that. They need to fight every step of the way. Remember how John Kerry, he was swift-voted, and there were those of us who were activists here in Texas, we were screaming and saying, fight, 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 push back. Yeah. And Kerry and the Dems were just like, oh, nobody's going to believe it. It's such a lie. And after, a month or 6 weeks or whatever it was, John Kerry finally started to fight. It's too late, dude. You lost because you rolled over. Yep. So it's not just that they've been not paying attention and doing nothing for the last 25 years. This has been going on for 35, 40 years.
Yeah, Chris, you're so right, which is why in my Substack article, I went back to the Powell memo in 71.
Right.
You are right that whoever that author was, bravo for bringing that up, because that is the issue, is that we didn't fight from the beginning of the Powell memo in 71 through the 90s. And then we kept that bad behavior going. It's insane, right?
It's totally insane. And that has made me angry for, like I said, since the mid-90s. When I read that article, I was already angry and screaming at the TV. My family literally would just leave the house when the news came on because I'm screaming, you idiots. But yes, you did a good job at laying all that out. You should definitely, if you haven't already, put it out on your Substack, and
it's out there. So
it's out there. Okay, so I'll go find it, and I'm going to share the crap out of that because people need to know the whole history.
Okay, Chris, thank you. It's 9:30, folks. You are tuned in to the Lightning Strike. Marie Newman on the show with us today, and as usual at 9 o'clock, Marie comes in with her segment, Ignore at Your Risk, and 9:30 is Maria Muzaffar joining us. Maria, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Morning.
Oh, we had a lot of fun this morning with Lynn LaPlante joining us on our first segment of the District Watch segment, and what a powerful statement that she made. But Marie, before I go to Maria, I want to come back to your point. The Democratic Party does not really understand what is happening. I'm so sorry, folks, but yeah, you sat on your high knees while the Project 2025 was taking place, and now you're assuming that we're going to win the midterms. Don't be too sure. Have a plan. I don't see a plan coming up from the Democratic side of the aisle, Marie. The Republicans have a plan. I mean, it may be a devil's spawn plan, but they do have a plan. We don't.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they always do, but and they stick to the same kind of evil plan. But here's what I'll tell you, and here's the good news. And actually, it might be more powerful, is that each of the individual campaigns that are running on the Democratic side have powerful plans. But so just because the leadership is failing us a bit right now, do know that each of these candidates have very powerful plans. And some of the incumbents do too. So as always, it comes from the ground up, folks. So always work from the ground up. The grassroots are powerful.
And that's where the district board segment comes in so useful. And we had Congressman Ro Khanna last week at Murray's house coming in with some great ideas, and he is running to get reelected. And he's got some other plans, folks, that you will be hearing about shortly. But Maria, break the echo chamber for us. And thank you. You did a great town hall, on the 4th. It was like phenomenal to bring in so many people from across the country together. All the more power to you. You want to just go ahead and do a little recap for our listeners on that, Maria?
I will go into that. Thank you so much, Mohammed, for watching, and anyone else that watched. And thank you, Marie, for coming and attending and speaking about the Establishment Clause. But one thing I wanted to add on here, with the Democrats not having a plan and the Republicans always having a plan, and the change coming from the ground up. So what's interesting is the perspective that I have. I echo with what you're saying as well, but the model of the Republicans creating a plan that they identify as their value system. They actually identify a value system. That's critically important. And so when they identify a value system, they commit to it, and then they put a plan to make sure that's the way things go, right? With the Democrats, you think about what kind of strategy they were using. And for the last, I would say 8 years, they kept looking at how the Republicans were operating, because they saw the rise of the Tea Party, and they saw that how is this getting solidified? And they were like, what is going on here? And then they realized that the Republicans are galvanizing based on values. Now, at the same time, we recognize that within the Republican Party, it's not just a value system plan, it's also a power grab, right? So if you have the power grab, you can also implement your values, but it's both. So it's power that comes with money and sustenance and wealth, and you sustain the position that you have. I think the Democrats, the leadership, started looking at that and saying, wow, well, that's a goal that we need to have, right? Not just the values, but we need to sustain ourselves as wealthy, powerful people and grab our power. So we need to specifically make sure that we are allied with private equity. We are allied with big donors. We are having the same solid relationships. So instead of following their plan on values, there's a plan on how to make sure that the wealthy keep the wealth. And so what happened, it's like value and wealth versus just wealth, because the values were not showing up on the Democrat side. So I think with Marie's comment that it comes from the ground up, that comes from the ground up because people on the ground have to practice their values to survive here. I mean, they want to create a society where there's fairness and dignity, and they're able to thrive in the society they have. If that's not an issue for you, and your number one goal is to amass wealth as much as possible and control the narratives, make alliances with tech companies to make sure that things go the way that you want them to go, make sure that mergers and acquisitions go through without regulation. If that is your goal, you're never going to be able to create a narrative that's based on values, which means you won't galvanize the masses that we need. So I think that is very, very critical. The lessons that the Democrats could have learned from the Republicans is don't copycat how to keep power and money. Copycat how you can translate your values to the masses. And I hope that the new candidates are able to do that. But I think that's critical. As far as the town hall, thank you so much. So I would love to talk about that. So on June 4th, there was a nationwide virtual religious liberties policy town hall. And what that was bringing together 5 different communities across the nation of faith. And that was Muslim, Jewish, Catholic, Hindu, and Sikh. And all of them came with about 3 to 5 individuals that were policy experts and academics or community leaders that were speaking about issues of faith. And the reason is, why was this super, super important? Well, it was important because the administration had its own Religious Liberty Commission, if you recall. And the Religious Liberty Commission, when an administration has one, the purpose is to be able to address the needs and understand the demographics and identity of the faith communities across the country. That is not what happened in the commission that the administration held. So what do you do at that point? Well, I think you have to create your own. You have to create your own and bring individuals from different faiths to come and weigh in on key domestic and foreign policy issues. And there were 3 goals of this town hall. Number 1 was, let's identify and introduce faith communities and let them identify themselves in their own words. Instead of sound bites, instead of other people saying what their values are, let them speak for themselves. Give them the mic. Number 2, let them identify their policy priorities. Don't tell me what the Catholics want. I don't want to read from a political pundit what a Catholic wants. I don't want to read from a journalist that wants to get hits on how the Sharia is taking over the country and the Muslims are coming. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear from the Muslims. I want to hear what the actual faith fundamentals are and what their plans are, what their demographics are. So that was key. And 3, let them weigh in on key foreign policy and domestic issues. Why? Because right now, faith communities are either sidelined, mischaracterized, or weaponized. And if that's the case, we're never going to really know where they stand. Why is it even important to listen to faith communities? Well, it's important because the founders of our country founded this country searching for religious freedom. So faith has always been a cornerstone of the country, no matter where you are. But it was also a cornerstone that you should be able to practice your faith freely. And also coming back to the fact that we just saw, which was not new, unfortunately, in American history in the last 3-4 years, we just saw the shooting in San Diego. And so what we recognize, and I said this as we began the town hall, is we recognize that and I think I've shared this before here with this audience, that the young Muslim girl who was 5 years old, who was given the message that she's not safe in her safest places, her reality is just as tragic as the 17-year-old boy who shot the security guard, who would have shot her because of his hatred for her, and then he shot himself because of his hatred for himself. That's where we are as a country. That's where we are. So we really cannot allow for the country not to have a model of a national civil discourse on religious liberties. We have to show that it's possible. And I'll just say, we had some of the most divisive issues discussed in that town hall. We talked about Gaza. We talked about the 10 Commandments in the classroom. We talked about the Christian First narrative, where it lays on the Establishment Clause. We talked about Project Esther, Canary Mission, the anti-Semitism hearings, the freezing of federal funds because of anti-Semitism. Everything that you could imagine that's too difficult to talk about, we spoke about. And I think it was, and I'd love to hear Marie's views on it as well, because she was present. I think what is very necessary for us to understand is that we cannot leave this to anybody else. We really can't. We can't leave this to elected officials at all, because the lifting is heavy. I'm not even going to say they're apathetic or you can't trust them or you can't really. I'm not going to say any of that, because I think that's a very pessimistic approach. I think we identify where they went wrong, and then we also got to do the heavy lifting as well. So we got to do the heavy lifting. And the conversations and the positions that came out, which also showed that communities are not monolith. The Jewish community does not stand on one place on things. The Muslim community also is not a monolith, and etc. Well, all of that discussion and that video recording of that conversation will be sent to every single member of Congress with a summary of the conversation. And then every community organization, faith community in those in the different states will be receiving the video, and we will say, listen, you are a advocacy organization for the sick community in Nevada or in Texas, or if you're a national organization, go ahead and send it to all your community groups. Ask them to send it to their congressman and say, you want to know how the Sikhs feel about Gaza, how Sikhs feel about Iran, how Sikhs feel about religious liberties? Watch this video. This is our position. And so we are not leaving any excuse that Congress does not hear from faith communities, but we have to do the heavy lifting, is my point. And I will end with this. The commitment, you're right, Mohammed, it's not easy to bring all these people together from these different faiths and have so many people. It was very easy to do. It was very easy to do because the commitment of what people see that this country right now is witnessing dehumanizing political rhetoric and political violence. Nobody wants their kids to look at where we are now and say, this is America. Nobody wants that. And that's why people were motivated and committed and participated, I believe.
Well, awesome job, Maria. Awesome job. I mean, I was literally stuck for the 3 hours listening to the conversation because everybody was bringing in a new perspective, and it was so refreshing to have these people coming in with how they felt, because all of us are being played. All of us are being played by forces that are greater than us, and we are not really realizing that.
I think that's a play, though. But I think that's a play too, correct?
Yeah.
That they are greater than us. That is a play. That is a play too, because the reality of this is that the communication that's reaching the elected officials is coming through either money or a narrative that you'll be punished. If you go the other way, you will be canceled. So one thing that we did in this town hall is we talked about things that people are not comfortable talking about, and we broke it open. So we broke it open because we have to have these discussions intelligently. So for example, Canary Mission, right? Canary Mission is a group. Nobody really knows what it is, but they go after academics and they go after students that say certain things that they disagree with, that they consider anti-Semitic, which is maligned and it's incorrect. They're being sued now, but they dox people. So you're sending individuals to college students' homes and families, right? And so someone on the town hall said, I'm on the Canary Mission. And I said, what does that mean you're on the Canary Mission page? We have to open this up. I think a lot of this happens when the media participates in silencing and choosing what is worthy of mention and what is too dangerous. And I will tell you, this goes across the board with of course the leadership in the media companies, and then also anyone that has clients that are representing people. No, don't say that. That's dangerous. I'm probably not going to get another client if I allow you to do that. So this is really a question of courage. It's not a question of numbers. It's really a question of courage, and we have to just make it clear that there are a lot of people that will stand with you once you take the lead. That is clear.
Well, that is something so critical for you to understand, folks, and that's what we are trying to do through the radio over here. Also on the Lightning Strike, we talk about subjects that people are totally uncomfortable talking about, right? And we want to bring in everyone's perspective. So if you disagree with us, call in. The number to call in is 773-763-9278. You can always bring your voice to the air also over here. The important thing that, Maria, that you brought out is also there is a concerted effort for the last 70 years to silence critics, to dox critics, and to bring in not just the lobbies that we talk about, AIPAC and all of that. In my monologue, I talked about the institutionalized Zionism that is there in our country, from the religious right to even the bureaucrats who depend on these constant never-ending wars, the military-industrial complex. We got to take our country back. Marie, you were so good. I listened to you also on the town hall. And if you could recap what you were talking about, the establishment clause, because most people don't know what it is. You're
muted, Marie.
Unmute Marie. Okay. Okay.
Um, the Establishment Clause is really important because not only it was one of their first thoughts. So think about when you are writing anything, whether it is an email or anything, usually a writer or someone who's trying to communicate gets their most important thing out first, right? And free speech and
The
the
inverted
establishment.
funnel theory in journalism.
Right, right. And so that's what they did. The founders were very, very animated about the notion of free speech and free will, right? And so the Establishment Clause effectively says there will be no universal religion. There will be no favoritism towards any religion or not religion. So if you're of faith or not of faith, and that there will be no prioritization, and there will be no recruiting and coercion and forcing you to be a religion. So at the end of the day, they were so adamant and passionate about this topic that they put it out there first. And it's part of the First Amendment, right? So it's very, very important that we understand where the founders were at on that. So these people that claim to be constitutionalists, meaning the far right, hey, you know what, babe? You're not reading that
Right.
Constitution, right? Like, stop right now, and you got nothing. You got nothing, nothing, nothing. So, so the Establishment Clause, it really helps us say very clearly that there is a division of church and state. In America, we want you to believe whatever you want to believe and practice your faith however you want to, or don't practice faith. We love all of you the same.
Right.
So it really is the consummate way of us being very clear. And there is no interpretation. There is no, there's only one. And it is that church and state are separate. So I'll just say, Maria, again, that was illuminating for me. I loved what all of the faith partners had to say and how important it was. That discussion, I hope every single member of Congress watches that start to finish because they do not understand all of the nuances and complexities. So yes, the Establishment Clause, I couldn't be more, I'm also animated on that topic.
Well, it's
Hey,
interesting. It's interesting, Marie, because this critique of the Federalists and the Constitutionalists. I think the critique that you're anti-Constitution is really accurate. You're anti-Constitution because you are taking language and you're misinterpreting, or you're attaching an intent that you, like you stated, you have no evidence for.
Yeah.
We have evidence for the intent that does not disagree with you. Accept it. Accept it. But
Yeah.
you cannot then take it and say, actually, this has been our identity. And something that was very interesting is that Miss Janae Lewis was representing the Catholic community. She's an
Yeah.
African American woman,
Yeah.
and she was representing the Catholic community. And she said, I want to make very clear, this Christian first narrative that's being pushed is not in any fundamentals in Catholicism or in
Right.
Christianity. We don't see it. But
Yeah.
what it is from is the intentions of white males who wanted to control and have power. And they happen to be
And
Christian
land. Yeah.
and land. So this was all about power grab. So this is like a trickle down of those old language and those words that were used to be able to control and unify and eliminate dissent. But it
Yeah.
has no grounding in faith. And I think she found it quite insulting that someone would use it, especially as a policy of government, to try to push at the state or the federal level,
Well,
which is very interesting to understand.
I couldn't agree more. And she did a beautiful job. I thought she
Yeah.
was quite clear on this topic and applaud her. And it's really about anthropology now, right? Is
Right.
that we've had 2.5 centuries of embedding that somehow white men are more important than the rest of the Americans, is that we are constantly fighting back on it now, but it's imprinted on our DNA now, because when you learn something over and over and over after generation, it starts to become part of you, right? And so now dispelling that is so very, very hard. It's an anthropology experiment now. We just have to. We don't have a choice. So I'm glad she said that loud and clearly. And by the way, there's no doctrine, no faith doctrine that says that in fact our Constitution, our rule of law, and our country should be ruled in a Judeo-Christian way. It doesn't exist anywhere. So honestly, like, I just call BS on all that.
Well,
Yeah,
guys,
no, I
thank
agree.
you. Thank you so much. Great discussion so far, folks. So you're tuned in to the Lightning Strike. Please go to tlsradio.com. Support us, support independent journalism. And we do have a fundraising dinner scheduled for July 29th. Please mark it on your calendar, which is a Wednesday in the evening from 6:30 to 9:30. You will meet our entire team. In fact, Chris Hilbert is going to be flying down from Texas. Chris has not been
Wow.
on an aeroplane since 2006.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yep. So she is
That's
making an
amazing.
exception to fly down to be with us at this event. So Wednesday, July 29th at the Bolingbrook Community Center. Please mark it on your calendars for all those listeners out there. Yep, we will be having our ticket link on our website, tlsradio.com, shortly. But hey, if you want to reach out to us and get an early bird ticket, please send an email to tls 8:20 a.m. for the lightning strike, 8:20 a.m. And we'll send you the link to get your tickets online. It's only $75 and it includes dinner and cultural performances. We just talked with Lynn LaPlante this morning. She's a concert violinist. Did you guys know that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
And viola and cello.
yep. So, Lynn, we are leaning on her to come in and do a little gig over there. The Rockaholics would be there. I was talking with Chuck, also the uh, chief of staff of Will County CEO Jennifer Bertino Tarrant. Chuck is a good friend, and he plays the guitar. And they have a team that they go on tours and they sing. So I talked with Chuck and said, hey, he said he'll look at his calendar. So we are putting together not just boring speeches, okay?
Yeah.
But
We've had enough of those.
yeah, we have had enough of those. And Maria, again, thank you. How do people get to see what you guys did? I mean, where is the link for the town hall, Maria?
Yeah, so we're going to release the full Zoom link. We edited actually the live stream because it glitched a little bit. So we're releasing that on Monday. It'll be on my Instagram, which is my first and last name on Instagram, but it'll also be on YouTube. I'm going to share the link with the lightning strike so you can place it on your social media. And then we're going to be releasing reels. So what you'll do is I would love for you to listen to the whole conversation, but each conversation is going to have its own reel. So we're going to spotlight every conversation. So you'll see like 5 of Marie's and 5 of Janae's. And so you'll be able to actually get every single question that was asked and take it in doses. So yeah, so it'll be very accessible. I just wanted to say one thing too, the question about what the statement that you said about there are decisions being made by people that have more power than us. I think you alluded to that. One thing that people don't recognize is that there's always people in communities. You go to these town halls. I think all of you have been going to different town halls when elected officials hold them. And there's always a few people in the audience that are there all the time. And then they bring up like the same 2 issues and the audience just goes, oh gosh, here we go again. What you realize through time and as you see politics is those people are gems in our communities. And so I would encourage anyone, those people that keep showing up saying, wait, I want to bring this up again. Wait, I have another report that I read last night. These people are sincere, committed people. Please, if you see individuals like this in your town hall, instead of rolling your eyes, go up to them, listen to them, what they're talking about, ask them what they're reading, what really pushes them to care about this so much. Because all of those people lined up together can really move mountains. And that just shows you that sincere people that are committed need to just be aligned, together, and they can really make a difference. And that's what's the scariest for people that have money. And I don't mean money solves the problem, but I'm saying have money to change narratives and change policies by their lobbyists. That's what scares people, that really smart, intelligent people that are sincere are not moving their eyeballs from the target. That's what scares them the most. So let's keep our eyes on the target.
And that's what Lynn spoke about in her segment today, Maria. She really took apart what's happening in DuPage County. And We got about 4 minutes to finish off the show today. Chris, Mike, you got any input that you want to throw at our listeners before we finish off the show?
Well, sure. I would like to really double down what Maria just said, because it's so that's what I felt like when I listened to Lynn LaPlante for the first time. I heard her and everybody was rolling their eyes at this meeting. Oh, here she comes again, right? Oh, here she is. What is she running for? Oh, she's such a troublemaker. And I couldn't wait to go over there and talk to her and find out what she was all about. And then I talked to her, I walked her outside, her and her husband. And, now she's on the show. Now more people can see what she's all about. I've done that at several trustee meetings in Palatine Township area, where these people, just like Maria is saying, going, oh, here they are again. And I would go up to them and talk to them outside and give them an audience and find out what they're all about. And they were just frustrated that nobody's listening. And they usually had so much to say. And they had so much research that nobody's listening to. And all they needed was a union bully like me to open their mouth and start beating up on people and tell them, shut up and listen to these people. All right? They got a lot to say.
And an interesting perspective also that helped formed their lots to say, right? Because everybody has their own little sliver, and you need lots of those little slivers to make a full big picture.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And folks, something that Mike brought up just now, every village has a village board meeting at least twice a month, usually in the evening, 7 o'clock, so it's not cutting into your productive daytime job. Go there, see what is being discussed, and then you have a public comment segment at every meeting. And you are allowed to get up and speak about anything. You can talk about anything under the sun. So hold the feet to the fire of these elected representatives. Remember, these people work for us, okay? And if they don't perform their job, if you're running a business, if somebody comes in and they're all making promises and not bringing in any of the orders home to keep the business afloat, what do? You kick them out. That is what we need to do with our elected representatives, because we elected them. We pay their salaries. And the Republicans, Maria, wanted to slip in a 35% rate increase or wage increase for the DuPage County chair. The Republicans wanted to do that. They were just throwing this smoke bomb into the Democrats, and Lynn spoke about that. Murray, go ahead.
Yeah, no, actually, it was started by the DuPage chair and her Democrats on the board, and then they recruited the Republicans, and the Republicans were all in.
Oh yeah, of course.
So,
okay.
The genesis of it was the Democratic members of the board and the board chair herself, and then her donors. That's how the story started. So,
oh goodness, 9:59, folks. We are coming up to the end of the show today, and thank you all for listening. Thank you all for tuning in. Entire show will be posted on our YouTube channel at TLS Radio and on our Facebook page at TLS Radio on our Facebook. Also, do come back and listen to us every Sunday. Next week, we are going to have our guest is going to be Rachel Ventura, who's coming to talk to us about what the heck is happening in Springfield. And a lot of people are upset that, why are you giving some time to Rachel? Yeah, because she wants to talk about it. And if you want to counter what she's saying, feel free. Come on in as a guest, and you can have a face-to-face with our guests anytime on the radio over here and on our Zoom meetings. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And Murray, safe travels.
Thank you so much. Have a great week, guys.
Thank
Safe
you.
travels.
Bye. Thank you.